Voters, have your IDs ready. A federal appeals court ruling today means you're going to need one when you go to the polls.
But with less than 2 months until Election Day, critics are saying time could be an issue for some voters.
Continuing coverage tops tonight's Fox 11 News at 9.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. The appeals court in Chicago reinstated Wisconsin's voter ID law just this afternoon.
And they had just heard the arguments earlier in the day, and it means the law passed nearly 3 years ago, but in limbo since, will be used November 4th. So if you'll be voting that day, what do you need to know? Tonight, Fox 11's Alex Ronaldo has our balanced news.
Supporters of the voter ID law are feeling vindicated.
What we need is to make sure that fraud is difficult and make it very, 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 very rare. And I think voter ID does that.
But for the ACLU, the League of Women Voters, and others who oppose voter ID, this is far from a win.
We are very disappointed in the irresponsible decision to lift the injunction against voter ID.
As it stands, you will need a photo ID to vote in the November election. Forms of acceptable identification are a Wisconsin driver's license, a non-driver ID card, a military ID card, a U.S. passport, a certificate of naturalization, a tribe ID card, or a student ID card. Wisconsin voters had to show ID once before in the February 2012 election.
From the clerks that I've talked to, it went quite smoothly at that time. So I don't really think that they're going to need a whole lot of time to prepare for this. I think they'll be able to do it pretty easily.
But that was a spring primary. The ACLU says the November election includes the race for governor and will be much larger.
It will cause chaos and disruption for voters and election workers for the November election. The state has not demonstrated that it is prepared to make this new ID scheme work.
But State Attorney General J.B. Van Hollen says this law will be good for the state.
Policy shouldn't be thrown out by courts just because courts don't like the policies. So it's very important for our system of government that this be upheld. It's also important to make sure that people's votes truly count.
The ACLU says the law is not necessary because there is very little voter fraud.
Hundreds of thousands of Wisconsin voters lacked ID. The government lacks a strong enough reason to impose all of these burdens on voters.
In Greenville, Alex Ronaldo, Fox 11 News.